You hear it a lot that the touchpad or trackpad as it is called on MacBooks is simply better. So what exactly does it make so usable and so good reviewed? Let's begin with this video. Okay, so let me just jump right into it, and I want to say that the size of the trackpad on a MacBook is generally larger than the size on other laptops, more specifically PC laptops, and this already is a huge difference. Then if you take a look at it and see what it looks like on the MacBook, you can see a giant square or giant rectangle which doesn't have any kind of separation on it, any kind of buttons or anything like that. It's just a plain piece that you can touch and control. But if you take a look at the touchpads on PCs and most of the laptops, which are of course cheaper, I'm not talking about the price here, solely about the trackpad, but if you take a look at these, you can see that it's smaller, like I said, and in the lower part of it you can see it is separated and there are like two buttons. One on the left is like left click on the mouse and the one on the right does the right click. Well, if you try to open something up or simply click on the PC touchpad, you simply tap the touchpad like that. And if you want to double press it, you have to just double tap it. Or you can simply move your cursor to on whatever object you want and simply press, not tap, you have to press the button in the lower left corner. And it's gonna do the same thing. If you want to open it, you have to double press it, so you double click it or double tap it. Most of the people are familiar with this, but imagine that you are scrolling through something and your finger is already placed on the touchpad. If you want to open something up, you have to lift your finger and tap it again. Not saying it's unusable or something, but on the other side, on the MacBook, you have force touch trackpad, which means that you don't have to lift your finger from the area. You simply press harder and it's gonna activate the click. And you don't really need any kind of buttons at the lower left corner to activate a press. You simply either tap it or press firmly and it's gonna activate the same thing. And you can also perform a double click using the very same gesture, so it's very usable and very practical. Even right now, if you're using PCs and this kind of old type of touchpads, once you will switch to the MacBook, this is one of the best things ever. I'm sorry to interrupt the video right here, but I want to say that if you're enjoying this content, then hit the like button and also hit the subscribe as well, since it's gonna make you stay updated and know all of the things you need to know about Apple. And yeah, it's also going to help me as a channel, so make sure you do that, and let's just continue with the video. Now you may be asking, how exactly do you trigger the right click? Of course, you have to use a gesture for that, since you don't have a real specific button. So most of the time you use only the two fingers and you tap it at the same time and it's going to activate the right click, which is good. This kind of gestures are already part of the newer PCs and the newer touchpads, not only on the MacBook but also on some other laptops, so you also have that option. But I definitely do not miss clicking on the real physical button in the lower right corner of the touchpad to activate the right click. You can easily just do that with the gesture and it's just really good. But it's not just about the size and the force touch technology which makes it definitely easier. If it would be only that, I would already switch to MacBook, but it's not just about that. Since the size of the trackpad is really big, you can use many different versions of gestures. You can use 3-finger swipes, 4-finger swipes, you can use pinch in and many different kinds of things that really work well. The trackpad is really responsive. Many people think that they don't really need these fancy gestures, but let me tell you something. For example, you are on a website and you want to scroll down, and what do you do if you are on the laptop? If you have like older laptop, older PC which doesn't support the gestures, you can either move the cursor to the right side and use the scrolling bar and go down. You can click on the keyboard with the arrow pointing down and go down. You can move your cursor to the side again to the scrolling bar, then press with the physical button and swipe down on the trackpad to move, which isn't that practical. Instead, what you can use is like the gesture using your two fingers, swiping up and down and moving the page wherever you want, basically. Of course, it's not generally, or it's not solely on the MacBook. You can also find it on other PCs and many other laptops, but like I said, the one on the MacBook is really responsive, which means that you have a better experience of using that if you compare it to some Dell PCs or whatever. Okay, this would be the gesture when you're scrolling down, but there are plenty of other things that you can pick from. For example, if you want to see all of the open windows on your desktop. On a MacBook, you can just swipe up using your 3 or 4 fingers and all of the open windows are going to pop up. And you also get the fancy animation to it, which makes it really look really fluid and really good on your eyes. So that's the other things about MacBooks and Apple products, but let's just talk about the trackpad. You can literally do that because you are making, of course, a lot of work, you have plenty of windows, and you have to be organized. Also, if you have, for example, too many windows, you can move them to multiple desktops. You can create a new one. Again, this is not only part of the MacBooks, but on the MacBook you can use plenty of gestures which make it so easy for you to use it. Like if you're using Windows, and I did personally, I didn't really want to have many desktops open since it's not really that comfortable and it just, it wasn't really working that well. But on the MacBook, I now have like 7 or 6 desktops all the time open, and I can just use it and put windows from one to the other, and it just works really well. Once you are on the desktop and you want to switch to the other, you can swipe using your fingers from the right to left to move between the open desktops. And not just about that, for example, if you swipe down instead of swiping up, let me explain it. If you for example use Google Chrome and you swipe down using 3 fingers, all of the Google Chrome windows are going to pop up. Not only those that are on like your one desktop, from all of them. This is just like one or a couple of examples how you can use the trackpad and the gestures. I made a couple of videos about that, like MacBook tips and how you can use the gestures to your advantage, but this time I'm just talking about how good the trackpad is. Of course, there are some bad or like not really that good sides on the MacBook. The price and of course the storage, which is not upgradable and stuff like that. I get it, but these kind of software and the controller things, it just makes it's a very good experience of using the MacBook. And it doesn't really matter if you have the MacBook Pro, whatever size of the screen, whatever, if you have, for example, MacBook 12-inch, if you have MacBook Air, the newer one, all of the newer MacBooks should have that and really have that capabilities. Of course, we are only talking about the trackpad, but keep in mind that the trackpad is like the #1 thing that you are using if you're using a laptop. You have to control it somehow, and probably you don't use a mouse with your PC or with your laptop, so you use a trackpad. So it's pretty much in every app. No matter what you do, you will use and take advantage of these cool gestures and cool possibilities and functions of the MacBook trackpad. It's definitely one of the things that I like about it, and I even think about buying one, like a separate trackpad for my Mac Mini, which I already am upgrading at the moment. So make sure you stay tuned for more videos about Apple computers and Apple stuff in general. And if you don't want to miss them, then click on the subscribe button. It's gonna do some things and it's gonna help you stay updated, and it also is going to boost the channel a little bit. So make sure you do that, smash the like button as well, and see you guys in the next video. Peace out.